Trapped by the belief that I'm not good enough, bound by the limitations and the lies that consumed my world, this was me. It wasn't until I took the biggest leap in my life to know and trust the power within. And it was at that moment I made a choice. My past will not define me anymore. Hello, I am Teri, and I know I am not alone in this. Over the years, I have found that the number one mistake that we make is that we get in the way of our own success story. Yes, I said it. On this show, together we'll tackle limiting beliefs, self-sabotage, getting stuck, fear, doubt, overwhelm, and the imposter syndrome. Join us on this journey designed to transport you beyond your limitations to a world where anything is possible. This is Talking with Teri. Hello, and welcome back to Talking with Teri, where we have powerful conversations to transform your life and your business. And I'm here today with Brigitte Bojkowszky. She's a Ph.D. as a global and personal branding specialist. She's founder and owner of BridgetBrands, and she's also the host and producer of the podcast Brand Lovers, which sounds fascinating. She's also the international best-selling author of the book Significant Women: Leaders Reveal What Matter Most. Brigitte, welcome to the show.
Hi, Teri. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure being here.
Yeah, I know. We connected through a mutual friend across the world. And I was like, ooh, this lady has some yummy energy around her. And I'm like, I want her on our show. So, okay. So give us a little back scoop of, how you got to be where you're at today.
Oh, yeah. So my story is rather unconventional. So I started out as a flight attendant. I flew for several years as a flight attendant for an airline. I don't know whether you know it, Niki Lauda. It was founded by Niki Lauda, Lauda Air.
Okay.
Niki Lauda was a former Formula One car race driver, and then he started his own airline. So I flew for him for 5 years. And then I stopped flying because I was intellectually not really challenged. So I wanted to study. So I studied. I studied international marketing and management and business education. So I'm also a certified kind of teacher. And
I'm going to stop you for a second because in her bio is like 16 pages of all this education that she has. Like, she's being very humble, but it's like it goes on and on and on and on and on. Like we're talking to a true professional here that knows her stuff.
I mean, it's not that extensive though. However, it's yeah, my life was
kind of experience, yeah.
Yeah, I have experience in different kinds of fields. So from a flight attendant to a student to a corporate. So I also was working with different corporations. And then I figured, okay, I still want to do my PhD. So I did that in international marketing and management. And I've taught at different universities around the world. And then I went back to the industry. I worked for an international real estate company, and then the financial crisis kicked in 2008. I went back to university and became a professor. So from a flight attendant to a student to a corporate to a professor. And I had an 8-year contract, a temporary contract, so no permanent contract, because I didn't want to just do research at the university. I'm a person, I want to be with people. I want to teach people. I want to really be with them, taking action, helping them to gain knowledge and transfer from one state of being into another state of being. So that's rather me. So I am the person who does the workshops, the online courses, the one-on-one, etc. Yeah, so my contract terminated and I started my own business, and that was in March 2020. And guess what? What happened in 2020 in March?
we had a little momentarily pause in the world.
Yes, I think so. We came to a standstill, and also my business, because I couldn't go out to the companies and do my workshops. So I had to pivot and change, and work around that and figure out what I have to do, what I can do, what I must do, where my capabilities are, and what are also what my audience is capable of doing. And so how do we get together? So there was this kind of blessing in disguise that there is new forms of how we work together, how we teach, how we educate, how we do business, how we just function.
I
And
really think that this time has given us the folks that really said to themselves, okay, this isn't happening. I'm going to make sure that my business, continues to grow and expand during this time. It really gave us this opportunity, I think, to really go inward to say, okay, let's tap inward and be guided with, how do we get creative and create some creative solutions around what feels like it's happening, to us instead of what's happening for us. And I think it has been incredible to watch. I started doing this recent thing that I've been doing on posting on Instagram and things like that. It's like there's like certain I'm like I just love humans. Like humans always fascinate me, like the skill sets, the brilliance that people bring, right? And I think this is an opportunity where a lot of people tapped into that and really got really creative and found the blessing in it.
yeah, especially those that have this kind of growth mindset,
Yes.
who find solutions, who are not giving up when things change, when things go bad, when things are just seemingly impossible. You just get up and say, okay, that's an opportunity. So what can I do in that situation that I can go forward, that I can level up, that can be the better version of myself, and also overcome this change. So there is always an opportunity out there. And when you have this growth mindset, when you are ambitious, and when you're courageous, and when you try to move into this uncertain terrain, so something that you're not knowledgeable about, you have no idea what's gonna come up. Nothing is a given, so you just need to move forward. I think then you really have a shot, and you can make something out of it. It's really a question of your perception on the world, and how you conquer life.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. I love asking entrepreneurs this question in particular, because I think that, again, I've said this many times on here before, is that, so often we look at people that have successful businesses and we say, gosh, how did they get there? Like, what has been the biggest mindset challenge, or barrier or block that you've had to overcome on your journey?
Oh my God, there are several, but I think the strongest or the biggest fear is the fear of failing.
Yeah.
And I think that is rooted very strongly in my upbringing, because I was brought up in a world that was playing very, very small.
Yeah.
I always had to fit in. So I developed kind of an imposture. I always felt I'm not being good enough, I'm a fraud, not being able to live up to others' expectations. And then on the other hand, this is interesting, the fear to shine and thereby outshine others. So
Yes.
it's like, if so if something kind of good happened, I played it down as I felt I did not deserve it. And
Yeah.
also then I dimmed my lights, because I was afraid to really outshine others, like friends and family and colleagues. And I felt then convicted of stealing attention from them. So
Yeah.
for me, it was like to grow beyond these predefined boundaries. Yeah.
And
Others,
limitations. Yeah, the limitations that
I
we
have put,
unconsciously took on, even though it
yes,
wasn't our stuff. It wasn't our stuff. It wasn't our story, but we took it on and said, oh, I can only get this big. I can only go this far. It's really, really fascinating. I remember them doing some research with, I think it was like with fleas, and they made these fleas like bounce. And it's been a long time since I've seen this. And it was really fascinating. It was like really fascinating psychology. So they taught the flea to only bounce to a certain level. Or no, they would come in, they would let the flea bounce its normal level. Well, then it put in a restriction into the flea. And so the flea could only bounce a certain element. And then they took away the restriction, and the
Don't-
flea would not bounce past that, And I think about, I don't know why I just brought that up. And now it's like, what are you talking about fleas for? But it was just really fascinating, the psychology behind it, because it's like, even though the restrictions been lifted, like, okay, we're in our family of origin. We have this pressure, this story, this expectation, this, role that we play, and we all have a role, and our roles have been clearly defined at some point in our childhood. And when even when we step away from that role or that expectation out of the family of origin, it's still with us. It seems like we can't pass it, And it's just really fascinating how we become conditioned to be in a certain way. And then I truly believe that it's at some point it stops serving us. And then at that point, that's when the transformational work happens, right?
Exactly. So actually, we have to unlearn everything that we were conditioned.
Right?
It's
a lot of work.
Oh, yes, and it was a different generation at that time. Yeah. So now we are free in choosing what we want for ourselves.
Yeah.
And so I think the trick is also to allow ourselves to grow beyond this predefined boundary. Yeah, and we don't need to put ourselves in these boxes and limit ourselves within this box. We are responsible where we put the boundaries, and we can go beyond that. And it's uncomfortable, yeah, because it's as you said, we feel safe within it, but it really needs this courageousness, this braveness to step out of it and feel comfortable in this uncomfortable. And it's the area, it's the zone where we can grow, the so-called zone of genius, basically.
Yeah.
Hendricks already said that in the Big Leap. Yeah? So it's really where we have to make ourselves comfortable, where we can take action, where we can go beyond what we have ever imagined. So we need to give ourselves permission to do so.
Yeah.
That's the
Well,
first.
let's tie that back. So for the listeners who are tuning in right now, I'm going to invite you to take some moment tonight, before you go to bed or whenever it works out into your schedule, is to take a look at, like, what is holding me back? Is there a story? Do you have a voice? Maybe it's your mom's voice playing in your head, your dad's voice, or your cousin's voice, or whose voice is in your head saying you can't do blank. Okay. So whatever that is, I want you to invite you just to say, okay, does that belong to me or does that belong to them? And if it belongs to them, give them, just let them give it energetically, give it back to them. You don't have to call them and say, hey, Uncle Freddie, like that was not my stuff. Like, no, you don't even have to communicate with them. Okay. Just energetically, just be like, I bless and release, and just give it back energetically. And it's amazing how just simply releasing it energetically, you can say, okay, now what do I get to choose? What do I get to choose? And what does that really look like for me? And what if I allowed myself to go outside of that spot? What if I allowed myself to go outside that comfort zone? What's the worst thing that could happen? And you know what? It's really fascinating to me is that the worst thing that could happen usually is not that bad after all. When we get a different perspective, I'm like, okay, I remember my husband years and years ago when I was taking this huge leap into my own private practice. He's like, what's the worst that can happen? I'm like, I fail. And he's like, yeah. He's like, and you go get another job, right? And I go, oh, that's it? Like, I just have to go get another job? Well, that doesn't seem like that big of a deal, right? And so I think sometimes we make it such a big thing, and then when we really just communicate it and bring it into conscious awareness of like, oh, that's it? Like, that's the worst thing that could happen? That's the worst thing can happen. I put, $10,000 on my credit card, and because, we can always make money. Money is infinite, right? We can always pay back. Right. And, so think about, like, what's the worst thing that could happen? And oftentimes when we put that bring it to awareness, usually in my experience with all the clients that I've worked with in the past, it doesn't even remotely happen. So it's really powerful.
Yeah, I mean, having the awareness at the beginning, it all starts with having the awareness what is going on and accepting that this is happening. And when you're saying, what's the worst thing that can happen? Always when I'm afraid, when I'm fraught with fear of something new, holding a speech, or at the beginning when I started teaching, walking into a classroom of more than 100 students, and then you have to, perform. And I always think about something very specific. When I was flying for the airline, there were several, almost emergencies where I thought, okay, that's it. I gonna die because
Oh
this is
dear.
something we're not gonna survive. We're gonna crash, I
Yeah.
mean, it never happened, thank God. This is something where there's real danger. So,
Yeah.
it's like you remember, you go through your whole life and think, okay, that's it, you're waiting for impact. But when you're out there, yeah, walking into the classroom of 100, 200, 250, 500 students, the worst that can happen, you're not going to die. You learn out of it. And
Yeah.
take it with humor, and you're doing the best. So even though you fail, and that's, I think, is another thing, we never fail. Failing is so infinite.
Yeah.
So, it's
The other day I just said, the fortune is in the failure. Like it really is the fortune, the learning, the going through that, like that is the fortune itself. And I'm telling you, my failures, and even just like 3 weeks ago, I had this like epic bomb that happened. And I was like, and I can laugh at it now, but at the moment I was like, oh my heavens, like really? But the learning that happened out of that, it's been tremendous. It's been absolutely tremendous.
yeah, it's the takeaway. What do we do with it? It's not what
Yeah.
happens per se. It's what are we doing with what has happened? How do we move forward?
Yeah.
And there's always something in it catapults us forward. It's really an
Yeah.
understanding. Wow, look at it. There is something that you need right now. Yeah, that is a significant thing that helps you to become a better servant going forward. There's always something beautiful
Yeah.
in it. And that's how we should see it. And each setback, each rejection, whatever it is, hurdle, challenge, there is something in it that is of importance to you. So that's how you should see it. And then we should not care that much what other people think about us. They should do that what we are doing. They should be as courageous as we are. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of people, they're judging you with, oh my God, look at her. So, okay, please go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
It's always easy to talk about other people. So I think we should
Agreed.
be unapologetically authentic. We just should do it. Yeah. And then we should be proud of ourselves and not compare about ourselves with others. So we should see each other like 5 years ago or 1 year ago and what we have accomplished in that period of
Yeah.
time. We can be proud of ourselves because we're always taking everything that we learn, we look at it, and we move forward with it and become a better version of ourselves. So
Yeah.
this is another thing we should be very careful about, not comparing ourselves with others.
Yeah. The comparison can be the thief of joy, right? And I often there's a great quote and a great saying says, "Don't compare our beginnings with somebody else's middle." Because we're all starting in somewhere, and their path is not our path, and our path will not be their path. And so, when we start to compare ourselves to other people, it wipes our power. And again, it's power not used appropriately. So, reclaim your power and say, you know what, hey, they're doing their best. And as a therapist I was a therapist for 25 years. And I promise you, I saw thousands and thousands. I probably saw close to 10,000 people in my career. And I will tell you, it is not what it all seems. When you're behind closed doors and you hear the truth and you hear the struggles, I'm telling you, I have a whole new perspective on life in general, because it is not always what we think it is. And so we can paint a beautiful picture on Facebook, and we can paint a beautiful picture on Instagram, and we can paint a beautiful picture on LinkedIn and all these other social media platforms and all these other relationships that we have and networking events and things like this. But I promise you, from experience, it's not all what it seems to be. And we
Yeah,
all have our inner demons. We all have them. No matter how much we've worked on ourselves, even the greatest have experienced, challenge and setbacks and continue to do so in every new level. And if we're continuing to grow and evolve like we are here to do, we will always be, doing personal development, and we'll always be growing and expanding. And it's just a part of being a human.
Yeah, and we are all different. We are all different. We are not one more of the same of someone else. It's nice to see, how other people are doing this or that, but we all have, I think, everything what we need in us. So we really should
Agreed.
in us, and we have to figure out what is our sweet spot, what is what we are capable of, what are our strengths, what how we are perceived by others. How can we, as a unique personality with our capabilities, make a difference in other people's lives? And since we're all different, yeah, we all have this different uniqueness. We all have this sparkle, this specific singular thing that only we are able to bring to the world. So that is something beautiful, and we should concentrate on that and not about other people's life,
Exactly. I mean, well said, well put. Okay, so where can people connect with you and collaborate with you? And thank you so much for coming. She's coming all the way from Austria to join us. And so thank you so much. I don't know what time it is there, but I'm hoping that this was a conducive time for you. But where can people connect with you further?
Okay, so you can connect with me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is my preferred social media platform. I'm
Perfect.
very busy on it. On my website, it's BridgetBrands.com, and my email address is bb@BridgetBrands.com. I think you put it into the show notes.
Yes.
And there you find everything, and also the link to my services, to my one-on-one exclusive personal branding coaching, to my workshops. Yeah, so whenever you need advice and you need help in strategizing meaningful branding strategies, then I'm the person to help you with.
Fantastic. I love it. I love your energy. I love what you're creating. I love everything about you. I'm so grateful that our paths have crossed in this lifetime. And I know that we're going to have continued conversations after this. So thank you so much for being here with us today.
I thank you so much, Teri. Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.
I am so grateful that you joined me for this episode. If you've enjoyed this, then there's just one thing that I would like you to do. Click to subscribe and leave me a rating and review. As my way to thank you, let's connect for a free consultation. Just reach out to me at talkingwithteri, that's TERI.com, to book your time.